This is a Frank podcast.
This Warriors Live podcast, 2025, episode 16. I'm Will Evans here with Fonzie, and for his first appearance of 2025, TWL semi-regular, everything rugby league co-host, podcast co-host, and all-round good bastard Keith Whitelock. Boys, great to see you.
Yeah, what an intro. Yeah, that's probably the best intro I've ever got. Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. Great to be
here.
Hey, boys, how are we?
If you want, mate.
Yeah, you should, mate. You're just fresh off interviewing the one and only Steve Mascord, Keithy.
Yeah, it was an enthralling
nice.
interview. Yeah, he had a lot to say. He's got such a unique insight into the game of rugby league, and he's got such knowledge of both Australian and New Zealand rugby league, but also English rugby league. Obviously, he resides there now, and he had a lot to say about the NRL potentially purchasing the Super League, but also the mindset of an English rugby league fan, and how they don't delineate between like business being a sport and the local club being part of the town's identity whatsoever, like most other countries such as Australia and to a more acute degree America. So yeah, thanks for the plug. I encourage anyone to listen to the Everything Rugby League episode that came out on Friday. Steve has a fascinating mind.
It's the best one since I was on there, 100%. Yeah,
it's true.
I'll drop the link into the show notes for this one. Check that out, Everything Rugby League podcast. We're brought to you by King's Container Crew for all your container packing and unpacking needs around Australia and New Zealand. Head to kingscontainercrew.com and also New Zealand TAB and Frank podcast. Keith, mate, you're also, a few weeks removed from it now, but another stateside adventure. Went to Vegas, second time. You might be one of the few Warriors fans that made it back-to-back. It's a good effort, mate.
Yeah, it's an expensive one. This year is a bit more expensive. I feel like Vegas must be the most expensive city in the world. But I had a good time. I was telling Will in the metaphorical green room before we started recording here that I got sick as a dog in New York. So I spent 5 days huddled in a hotel room. So that was the bad part of the trip. But Vegas part was good. One game too long. I think that PVL has recognised that. I don't know what, I think you have to include the Super League game. They're by far the loudest fans. They, you heard it on the TV, but through the annals of the stadium, you just sort of, it was just echoed all throughout. So Super League fans, despite, I don't know if they numbered more than Warriors fans, but they were certainly louder than any other fans. So it was great few days in Vegas. Just 4 games back to back without being able to get in and out of the stadium is a bit too much to ask of fans, I reckon.
So the performance made you that sick, mate, that you were curled up for 5 days in New York. Is that right? You just bloody Metcalf 7 and forwards can't tackle. Is that the?
Here we go. Bit of a glitch there. Keith was rocked by Fonzie's question about being sick over the Warriors' performance in Vegas, but it's only got better since then. And Warriors land 3 straight wins, gutsy, seesawing, dramatic win over West Tigers at Campbelltown, 26-24. Boys, initial thoughts on that one as the Warriors go 3 straight?
I'll jump in. Yeah, so I watched it at the pub with some mates, and we started at the start of the Para-Manly game. So by the time the Tigers game rolled around, there's a few empty jugs on the table and wasn't watching it that clearly. But it was super enjoyable game to watch, first up live in a pub. It was very back and forwards. Score kept changing, league kept changing, and, it was a pretty even game. But I did a rewatch last night, actually, just to get my head into it. And look, I mean, we were lucky to win, but we would have been unlucky to lose that game. It was a pretty evenly matched sort of game. We wanted to get them into a grind, and they didn't really want to get into a grind with us, so they wanted to play a different game. And so you sort of saw that in this game where we were playing one way, they were playing another. It didn't really connect. And so it just, depending on who was getting their own way in terms of the flow of the game, sort of tended to get on top, put points on. Our defence was a little bit of a worry, if I'm honest, but there were some things to like as well. So, I mean, yeah, look, overall, the win's the win. The win away is super valuable. I think it was our second worst performance of the year, I would say, after Vegas. But it was deeply satisfying. I know, Keithy, what was your high-level take?
Yeah, quite similar. I think the win meant that we had some defensive frailties not quite exposed like they would, obviously, if we lost. I loved, obviously, I'm pretty high on Leka Halasima, as everyone is right now. I think there's some really big step forwards to 2023 form from players like Jackson Ford and Bunty, which I'm sure we'll go through. But, I love seeing that Webby wasn't getting ahead of himself in the presser as well. Really good game to watch. Weird vibe watching a game on a Sunday night, though. It's like sort of hanging around for something the whole weekend. And then you got the adrenaline afterwards. And, I loved it. I was anxious throughout. We didn't really play wet weather footy, but neither did the Tigers. So there's a lot of other teams out there that probably would have beat us on Sunday night, but happy to get the win.
Yeah, the Sunday night kickoff was rough over here in New Zealand. 8:15. It was close to 10:30 by the time it finished. I was doing play ratings for another couple of hours. Brad said he was still staring at the ceiling at 1:30 in the morning. He was so amped up over the win. It was not a good one for the nerves, but yeah, great win. It was a great game. I'm sure the neutrals would have loved it. Frustrating that we got out to a lead 3 times and then let them score when it sort of seemed like we were getting on top. And I thought the Tigers, had it in the bag, really. I kind of thought they blew it. They had us on the ropes, blew a couple of try-scoring chances, Terrell May over the line, and then the obstruction, which would have, I think, been pretty hard for us to get back from 12 down. But, yeah, full credit to them again. Trailing inside the last 15, found a way, found a try, an incredible try, as you mentioned, Keith, by Leka. Some clutch goal kicking, a little bit of gamesmanship, and the win's ours. I thought they closed it out really well too. That after getting ahead again, the defence of those last few sets were really good, nice and calm, and that's exactly what you want to see. Not the sort of jittery Warriors that we're used to protecting a lead in the last 5 or 10. So, and just a massive result to go 3-1 and then into the bye. What a great platform they've set. And with some pretty big, pretty big hurdles during the week. Dylan Walker leaving, the injury to Roger, then Rocco pulling out, a late withdrawal. So I thought, all in all, it was a pretty, full of character again.
Yeah, but I mean, I agree with that. On the other hand, look at the other side of the field there. So the Tigers had some late injury issues and then in-game HIA issues. They had a couple of tries disallowed rightly, but they were borderline. So did we. We had a couple times we were over the line and it wasn't awarded. But I look at that and go, if you play that game 10 times, we win 6. You know what I mean? And lose 4. I don't walk away from that going at this point we're a better team than the Tigers. It's just, the cards fell our way. Their pre-game injury was probably a bit harder to plan for than ours. We had a bit more time to plan. And on the night, I agree we fundamentally have better control than them, but I actually thought they probably looked a bit more dangerous than us, to be honest. And like that kick from Luai, then the winger kicks it out. If he dives on that and then it's tackle 2, we're in complete disarray and there's a few minutes to go. I mean, the game could turn, So, I think we should take the win. We should be happy. We should be happy with the first month. But I wouldn't get too excited. Is probably where I'm at.
Yeah, it's the little things like that from the Tigers where if a better team or a team with more experience winning and composure, if they didn't blow the opportunities like the Terrell May drop ball or the Taruva obstruction or, picking up the ball instead of kicking it in the dying minutes there, all those kind of things. That's the part that I'm a little bit worried about. But let's be really positive, because it was just a fantastic game to watch. And like you, Fonz, I'll take the win.
Yeah, I know. Will, what was your like? Let me ask you this before we get into individual players and performances and stuff, right? So if you think back to early 2023, right, there was a bit of a similar vibe, putting aside the Vegas debacle, which was the attack wasn't great. We were kind of getting in the grind of waiting for teams to fall over and scoring points almost by default. And our defense was good. Our field position was good. Completion was good, that sort of thing. I mean, how does this team make you feel compared to, if you think back to early 2023?
Yeah, quite similar. It's been a similar start if you take the Vegas loss out of it. And yeah, just quite gritty, far from perfect. That win sort of reminded me a little, although not the same magnitude or arguably the same opposition, but the comeback win at Cronulla in round 5 that sort of really kick-started that 2023 campaign. It had that same vibe, a Sunday in the wet, hostile territory, dramatic, late penalty goal to win it. It just gave me that sort of vibe. It really felt like we weren't going to win that game to me, but I thought we were. Yeah, it just didn't feel like it was our day.
On the weekend, really?
Yeah. I just had a feeling that we might, it just might not fall our way. And after full time, I wasn't quite sure if we were the better team or not. Probably were, maybe by a fraction, but yeah, pretty borderline. As you mentioned, those pretty glaring defensive misses for the Tigers' tries. That was, I guess, a step back from what we've seen the last couple of weeks at home. One thing I really enjoyed was the attack, although close to the line, it was pretty poor. There was a bit more variation. Obviously, we were extremely excited about scoring a try from our own half for a change, particularly when it's one like Lecker scored. But we got, so 3 of our 4 tries were from play the balls outside the opposition 30-metre line. During the first 3 rounds, only one of the Warriors' 11 tries, that last-minute intercept against Manly, came from a play of the ball more than 10 metres out from the opposition try line. So, quite a deviation, I guess, from what we've seen from them in attack. And they're great tries too. Adam Pompey, sensational. Wade Egan doing what he does. Brilliant heads-up play from dummy half. And then and obviously Lecker with a try that will get replayed for many, many years to come.
Could have improved the position, though.
Yeah. Certainly could have. If Metcalf misses that, it certainly gets looked back differently. But yeah, good catch.
I mean, it's funny you say that. So watching live, I mean, it might be that we were sort of 6 jugs of beer deep, but I never felt like we were going to lose that game. So I mean, we scored first, and it just never felt to me like we're going to lose that game. Even when the Tigers pulled ahead in the second half, I just kind of had that sense. So it's interesting. Like then on the rewatch, I remember watching going, man, we were lucky to win this game. So like the vibe on game day for me was, nah, we've got this. But yeah, with the rewatch, I agree with you. I sort of thought we pulled it out of the fire a bit. But let's talk about our tries then before we scored, and then we'll talk about theirs. So Adam Pompey, wearing a pair of lead gumboots, steps 3 blokes on the left edge from 35 out and scores. Is that a repeatable piece of skill? I'm not sure. Then Murata Nukore crash ball off Egan. I mean, that's sort of middle defense fatigue, sort of classic fall over the line try, really. Isolating Jerome Luai and so on, but okay, fine.
Great vision from Egan too.
Was it though? Not really, man. It was one off the ruck crash ball. It's great, but it's not like there's every hooker in the comp can do that. You just need a defense that's so demoralized and disorganized that they're not able to stop that play, because it wasn't even a fast play the ball. He did it didn't he do it off a penalty? Like there was a try disallowed or something like that, and it was a set start first play where everyone had 30 seconds to rest. I'm pretty sure if you go back and check. So I'm kind of like,
rewatch that one.
Yeah. And then the best try was actually the Egan try, in terms of the Egan break. with the halves backing him up. Because how many times have we seen over the last 2 years where Egan scoots and no one's there, right? And this time Egan scoots and both halves are there, right? To me, that's brilliant. That's repeatable skill. That's a repeatable type of play when we get ruck control. If Egan's going to do that, our halves are going to back up. We're going to score more tries like that this year. The Lecker try was the most spectacular, but like, again, man, let's, like, in terms of if we're looking at it of what is repeatable skill that's going to score tries for us every week, we've basically stuck a big explosive gun on the wing and just went, let's get the ball to him and see what happens. And he just gunned, the opposition and scored. But you're not structuring your play around that play in future games, are you? Really?
No, but it was a nice little bit of heads up play from Leotawa to go the blind side when, maybe 99 times out of 100 the Warriors just truck it up the middle when they're coming out of their end. Like, how often do you see them, run down a short side like that? It was just, I get you what you're talking about, repeatable skill, but I mean, it's good to have players that can, you're not going to win a comp by scoring every try in your season from playing the ball 10 metres out. You need players that can bust a game open, and it's nice to see that we've kind of starting to get some of those players, and some of those players are starting to build the confidence to do that. Like, I think that could be a real turning point for Pompey. Maybe that's the only time we see it this season, but maybe it's a turning point where he starts to produce something, back himself a bit more, and dish out that lovely footwork that we saw.
Well, this is the key, right? So 2023, sorry, Keith, I'll come to you in a sec. 2023, we started like this. And so it's clear now. We've got 2 and a bit seasons of Webby as a head coach. We know what Webby's about. Webby's number one priority is about where you turn the ball over to the opposition and your field position possession game, right? So the number one thing for Webb when he sits down and works out how am I picking my team and what I want my team to do, right, is to be causing the opposition to be receiving the ball in the corner, 10, 15 out with a straight line kick chase, trapping them in the cage. That's his number one priority, right? And on the flip, to be getting our back three not caught in the cage and getting yardage momentum, right? And so we're doing that very well. We did it very well in 2023. We did it in 2024, even though we didn't win many games, and we're doing it well now, right? So that's his first building block. His next building block is he wants a mobile pack that can scramble and defend errors. I'm not sure we're quite there yet, but that's been a theme in his selections over the last 3 years. And that style of play and those building blocks are great. But the problem becomes if you start picking players to do that who then don't have any strike. You know what I mean? And last year, once Shawnee was half busted, Tohu was half busted, and the various other things, there was no strike in the team. So the question now is, can this team, by round 15 or something, develop strike so that we're still winning those possession games, we're still winning those fundamentals, but we can actually score points by being a deadly threat. And I get what you're saying there around Halasima, which was, man, we're out of ideas. Just chuck the ball to that dude on the wing and see what happens, right? To be honest, like, it's seriously, if you threw the ball to like a back row like Jackson Ford or Mitch Barnett or Murata Nukore on the wing, that ain't happening. Or any other back rower at the other teams, that ain't happening, right? So it was kind of like, this young, crazy good dude is just going to be out on the wing. We'll just get the ball to him and see where we go, So, like, yeah, that's strike, but it's not really strike. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it's sort of – so we've got to work out a way to build into this team some actual strikes so that we convert the possession and field position into points. Because if you go back and look at the stats here, we won meters per carry, we won possession, we won completion, we won all those things, but we nearly lost the game, right? And so – our problem at this point is we can't turn those fundamentals into points. And so the question is, how are we going to do that going forward?
As long as we don't have a repeat of last year with, predictable play through that sort of Rockaberry line and off the SJ, and teams worked this out. 2023 was fantastic, but 2024, we didn't really change our attack all that much. And we sort of tried to repeat the same effective and complex plays, but eventually teams start to work you out. So The really good thing about scoring these tries that aren't quite replicable, if that's the word, is that, we're harder to study for our next game against the Broncos, but we do need to start seeing players like Ali Layat who are on the receiving end of early ball or set plays that are slightly different to what we tried in 2023 and 2024, because he's a big body, super talented. Lecker, obviously the same. So mix it up a bit. I think if we got a mix of ad hoc footy mixed with like set plays that are actually working, and I think that's falling down in the fact that our halves are so inexperienced in those positions. And we've seen Wade Egan and Chance basically leading the spine right now. I love the energy of Chanel. I love his energy. He's like our version of Jerome Luai, in my opinion. And I'm still waiting for Luke Metcalf to get some in-game, get a little bit better at in-game management, because the attitude, the will, and the energy is there, but it's going to take a lot more time, in my opinion.
But let me ask you this, Will, right? Is Melbourne going to let Murata score one off the ruck, or Pompey set 3 blokes cutting in out of nothing, or Lecker run 80 metres down the flank? They're not, man. Like, that's an inexperienced Tigers side letting us do that.
Yeah, but I mean that is still like achievable in a game for those players to produce something. They're naturally talented. I think in the past couple of years, maybe they haven't been, that confident to back themselves in that sort of situation. I mean, Halassim is obviously one out of the box, so can bust a game open. I mean, Melbourne do concede tries against us. They're not all just, block plays. Second out, yeah. I was disappointed with the attack inside the 20 against the Tigers. I thought it was a big step back from what we'd seen in the past 2 weeks, and even from Vegas. Really, we scored a couple of tries in the end there. But yeah, I like the variation in the attack. The fact that we do have players that can maybe produce something when the moment's on.
I agree.
Yeah. And like, don't get me wrong, I'm saying that's where we are now. I'm not saying that's where we're going to be in 10 rounds, right? I'm saying that's the work on. That's the thing. And Keith, he put his finger on it, right? I reckon Webby said to Metcalf and Chanel, first couple of months, get your kicking game right. And do we agree their general play kicking game was excellent? I watched on the rewatch, I was taking that particular note. Man, their kicks were much more on the spot than they have been in other games this year. It's getting better every week.
Yeah, Luke's first kick, pinpoint.
Yeah.
Can't get better than Luke's first kick. But then for me, Chanel outshone Luke in general play and the kicking game as well.
So I think they're kicking well, which is in that transition, get them in the cage, etc. They've let Egan take the reins of, the game management through the yardage sets, and our yardage sets are going great. So that's all sweet, right? So really what we need from our halves now is some slightly more subtle, complex play, as you're saying, Will, in the 20 or just generally in attack. So that's the work on, right? So the season now hinges on 2 things. Can the halves do that, right? Can these halves do that? The other thing is, does this grind, trap them in the cage style of play work against big explosive packs like the Titans, the Broncos, and the Raiders, right? Or is it only a game style that is going to help us beat your smaller, sort of less dynamic packs like your Roosters when we played them, your Manly, different issues, and your Tigers here? They're the 2 things that I think got to think about going forward.
Yeah, big test coming up after the bye. Melbourne, then Brisbane. It will give us a much better barometer of where the team's at, and what will work long term and what won't. But nevertheless, exciting. Do we want to rip through the team list just for a little bit more deeper analysis on how the game went with some individuals?
Well, let's do the King's Container crew rather than go 1 to 17. Let's start with who scored well and who scored poorly, and work our way to the middle.
Keithy told me off air that I was about 10% too harsh on the team. So we'll see what you guys reckon.
So there's a few 6.5s in there that I would have given a 7, and a few 7s that I probably would have bumped up half a point to 1 point as well. Just my humble opinion.
I did find it a difficult game to rate, and there was a very small variation. Top score was 8, and bottom score was 6. It's not very often that there's not some below that, and from a win maybe someone above that. But yeah, it was pretty tight. Wade Egan was the only 8 actually, and I thought pretty clearly best on the ground. Been our best this year, probably sensational for the 3rd week in a row. Obviously set up those 2 tries and top the tackle count again. Just to late.
Can we make that point? Can we make that point? He has been our best player over the first month. I just don't think there's any doubt about that. Like he hasn't been the best player in every game, but as a whole, he's been our best player, I would say, over the month. He's a freak, that bloke. He's almost wasted on us sometimes, I think. I know that's a horrible thing to say, but
we're building. He won't be wasted on us, but surely it's between him and Appy for New South Wales hooker. It can't be Robson. Where's he gone?
Mate, he was playing behind a pack that was winning, but he skinned Appy on the weekend. Not him. I just thought he outplayed Appy on the weekend. And Appy Coruscant's a brilliant player. Like I love watching Appy Coruscant, but Wado doesn't get talked about enough, that dude. But I was pleased to see he got 6 Dally M points as well this week. So I think he got a haircut this week. He's I saw he was
sort of
fade shades on the sides. Yeah, fade. So maybe that's what did it. But
does make you feel good.
And he should have got the 6 against Manly. He's actually up around the leaders on the Dally M medal count, which is good to see. Must have had a competent judge in the box this time, because they also gave votes to one of the 7.5 scorers in Kings Container Crew player ratings, Aaron Clark, who I thought was very good again. Just leading I think it's all 4 games. He's led the forwards run meter wise, and just a handful. I thought this was maybe even his best so far. I mean, what a great buy to have, especially under our circumstances with Tohu retiring. The decision to move Jazz on, we've got a good one here.
On field, Keithy, controversial comment. Aaron Clark has been a better signing than Fisher Harris. Thoughts? On field.
I'm glad that you prefaced that with on field. I think I'll put
get off the fence, mate. Get off the fence.
Well, the thing is, like, it's hard for me to back up the stats. I mean, I looked at the play the ball speed, the average play the ball speed of James Fisher Harris, and it's actually it's not right up there compared to a lot of his peers.
Don't get me wrong, Fisher's the gun, but I reckon Aaron Clark has dead set. In terms of what he's brought in the first month of the year, which is not the whole picture. It's not the whole. I think he has been almost the best signing in the NRL this year. He's been outstanding.
I'm sitting on the fence, and ask me again when I come back on the show in a few weeks, hopefully. But they're on par for me.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I'd say I think Aaron Clark's certainly been the better value. Is that enough off the fence for you, Fonz?
Not really, but I'll take it.
The other 7.5 scorers, Charles and Clogstad's superb again, similar to the week before, just without those classy touches inside the 20. But real tough in a tough game. 28 runs, 238 metres. And Adam Pompey, 7.5 as well. We discussed his great try, good work rate as well. Big Ed Cossey, he's my TAB best value performer of the week. I was, as I always am, pretty down on Ed. I think he's been pretty ordinary in New South Wales Cup, and thought there were even better options in New South Wales Cup to bring up. And I thought this was one of his better games in the NRL.
Just on that, he's a personification of what the Warriors are to the Australian media, and to a lesser extent the New Zealand media. Until he strings a year's worth of consistent footy together, everyone's going to be, but it's only a matter of time till he screws it up. So he's a personification of the way that the media and pundits tend to view the Warriors, and that's not unjustified in my opinion.
Yeah, but let's be real here, right? Like, if you put your house on the flip of a coin and you bet heads and you get heads, you're not a genius, you're lucky, right? And the truth is, if Ed has a game that we know he's got in him, because we've seen it in Cup this year, right, we lose that game. Right, so the fact that it was that tight, we lose that game if Ed has one of his bad days. So the fact that he did it is amazing, and he deserves all the credit. But like, let's not
100%.
Let's not kid ourselves, right? We flipped the coin, got heads. You might not get heads next time, so let's not get carried away in terms of assessing him. Was my take. I
thought he went after the game, he took it upon himself to be that guy after Chance that took the most carries. 19 runs, 207 meters. Pop 3 offloads, which were all quality offloads that got us good second phase. It was just, you're just sort of waiting for maybe a little. Then anyone, you can forgive an error or two in a game, especially in the wet. But I thought in the conditions, he was superb and he was hungry for it, whereas he seemed a bit disinterested in Cup this year. So full credit to him. I guess he's got that spot locked up until pending, I guess, Rocco Berry overcoming hamstring
what's
injury.
Rocco's injury, guys? Like, when's he back?
Minor.
TBC.
I reckon he'll be back. I don't know, but I reckon he might be back next week after the bye.
So do you pick him? Do you pick drop Ed, bring Rocco in?
Yeah, I would.
Without another game under his belt.
You flip the coin and got heads doesn't mean you're going to get heads every time. You're going to get tails.
More. I guess, as much for Rocco's injury and the fact he hasn't played a first grade game since June. It's a big one to come back in. But you still think they're confident in him and shift Pompey out to the wing.
If he's 100%, that's what I'd do. If he's not 100%, don't play him. But yeah, if he's 100%, that's what I'd do. When's Rog back? What's
round 11? I think Dallin's going to be back before him a week. So he's got Dallin round 10, Roger round 11 is the official report. But
I've got a weird relationship with my view on Dallin. Every time he's out for a prolonged period, I think we could. Is he our best winger? Like, can we replace him? Kane Tilbig, I love that kid. And then he comes back and he proves me wrong every time. And it seems to happen time and time again. So maybe I've got to increase it sounds so weird because he's such a superstar of the team, Dallin. But I don't know. To me, he's a little bit replaceable. What is he? He's 30. He's in his 30s now. I just love Tane too much. I just want to get him in the team somehow.
Yeah, he's amazing. But on Dallin, I was a bit of anti-Dallin historically. Thought he was just too much of a Rocks and Diamonds player when he missed those first 5 or 6 rounds in 2023, and the team was obviously flying early. I think might have even had Marcelo in the centres and Ed on the wing by that stage, and I was sort of saying, Dallin can come back in Cup, he can't come back into this team, and then obviously came back and broke the club record in only 20 games. So, I think we do need what he brings, but I totally agree. It's going to be tough to see Tane out of this team. The other 7.5 boys may be a bit generous, given he's only on the field for 30 minutes, but what are 30 minutes? Like Halasima. I've seen that try about 50 times already.
Yeah, I don't think anyone will begrudge you for that rating, even though it's only 30 minutes or whatever it was. I think if you went less than that, I think you get some fuel from the fan base.
Yeah. I mean, that try was incredible. I mean, we talked last week about the fact that we've got to work. He's now clearly one of our absolute strike weapons in this team, so we've got to work out how best to use that. The fact that he didn't improve the position under the post, right, also shows you how far this bloke's got to go in understanding game awareness, situational awareness, and all the rest of it, right? So, it just shows why I think Webby. People were criticising Webby last year for not bringing some of these blokes in. Right, I think Webby's hit it pretty much smack on, which is, he's got the balance right. Like, we're going to see Lecker bleed into being, over the course of this year into next year, being a starter. But you can see just from that play the precocious talent, but also the fact that he's just really not mature enough to be a starting NRL player doing 80 minutes. You can see that in that one play, I think. And so I think we're balancing it pretty much right. He's going to, this weekend, be riding a high with confidence from the win, right? And that's good for him. And he's also going to be having coaches going, hey, man, you got to get your head in the game, right? In the game. Don't talk to the crowd. Don't put your finger up, to the crowd. Like, you got to think until the ball's down and the ball's dead. You got to think. He's not thinking. So that's exactly where he is in development. But yeah, he's. I went and got my haircut down at the local place yesterday, and
a lot of talk of haircuts here.
The boys in there were all they're all Saints and Bulldogs fans. That's just how it is. The boys there, and they know I'm a footy head, so we always have a good yarn when I'm in there. And they were all talking about him. They're like, hey, shit, that kid who did that, what's the go? Like, how long is he contracted for? What's his go? What position's his best position? Man, he's going to be getting offers. He's going to be getting offers like at sort of 600-700K a year, like now.
This is why we invested in the 4 or so grades coming through Australia, and it's still too early to start to see the real fruits of it, but you're starting to see glimmers of it. And I watched the highlights on shout out to Warriors Anonymous channel that do the other grades highlights, and there are overlaps to the way that our NRL side plays, especially with that sort of you bomb to the corner and you get your kick chases and stuff like that. I saw some of that in the SG ball side highlights. So it's not rocket science what we're trying to do. We're just trying to get all 4 grades on the same page, and maybe 1 or 2 from each side each year start to graduate towards the NRL team, and Lek is one of those, of course. Dimitri Vayamanga, we're starting to see it come through. And if Lecker was coming through another team and we tried to make a play at him now, we would have to offer him 650 grand, 800 if he's Australian, but he's not Australian, and his heart's always going to lie with New Zealand. Probably it's where he's sort of born and raised, to the best of my knowledge. And these are the fruits of our development system, knowing that we've got this kid contract until 2027. The end of 2027, he's probably, you said the other day, Fonzie, he's probably on 300 grand. That's not to say he's not going to demand an upgrade, and we might need to do the right thing there. But these are the kind of players that we've been looking for, and let's just hope he can sustain it long term, because the term controlled aggression with Lecker is hopefully he learns where that line is, because I love that he took on Terrell May and is a future forwards leader and get that aspect of his game right. Yeah, I'm going to go further. I'm going to say Lecker is, like what you said is right about all the good juniors coming through, but Lecker is, as far as I can tell, Lecker's like a 1 in 10 year junior. Like we'll go another, we might go another 10 years and not get another Lecker through that junior system. Ben Madalino, when he was coming through, I think we probably know better. Did he play a couple of games in the 20s and this kid's just too good?
Half a season in the inaugural NYC, and then he was into first grade, played all 3 finals that year in the NRL. Similarities with that. He's probably a bit more explosive. There's just such a unique, I guess, to be able to sprint down the sideline, but he's also got everything else you want in a forward. And I did love that he took on Terrell May. I'm sure that's, he's probably going to push it too far now and again, but I like that he's got that fire in the 100%. Belly. You probably see a lot of, freakish talents like that come through, but, they don't quite have the mental toughness or the fire to, take on some of these NRL enforcers. And, man, he's straight into it. I love it. He's the sort of guy that we need playing 150 games, 200 games for the Warriors. We've talked earlier in the year about, how we haven't had enough long-term players, particularly, comparing it to other clubs that have been around for as long as us or even shorter than us in the case of the Storm. And, these are the types of guys you need, racking up those big games, not leaving after 100 or 110 like Lauatiti and Torpy and those sort of guys.
You know
Yeah,
what
no
he is?
compassionate grounds crap as well. He's one of us. He's one of ours. I should say.
You know what Leka is? He's the Reece Walsh equivalent in the forwards.
Yes, it's not a bad comparison.
That's
And
my sense. Watching them both, he's like if I look at Reece Walsh as a 19-year-old at the Warriors, and I look at Leka as a 19-year-old at the Warriors at the moment, I'll put them like for their respective roles, different contributions and stuff, but they're pretty much on par. Is what I'm saying.
For the first time in
you need
years,
to see the skills.
when Blocker Roach and co say that big Warriors pack, they're actually telling the truth this time, because I reckon the Tigers will be sore for until next week. That was such a physical forward pack performance in my mind. The defensive lapses, I mean, we can touch on that, but the fit that I said to someone just before that game started that whichever team shows up with the most energy is going to win, and that's a really basic prediction to make. But both teams showed up with equal amounts of energy in my mind. So that's why it was such a close game, because I don't think teams are polished. Teams just aren't polished at this time of the year. You play conservative footy and it comes down to things like energy. But they're also two teams that are learning cohesion, learning how to gel together, new halves, all that kind of stuff. And then it was just an all-out. The forward battle was one for the ages in my mind, and we won by 2 points, but could have easily gone the other way. But the fact that both teams showed up with that level of vigor was really good to see, because let's hope we can do that after the bye, because under Webby we traditionally haven't.
Back to the Kings Container Crew player ratings. Swag of 7s, Tane Tuapiki, nothing too out of the box this week, but just thought he did his job really well again. Who else we got through the forwards? Good moments for James Fisher-Harris, although that miss on Naupole as he scored wasn't his greatest. Who have we got in? A couple off the bench. Jackson Ford, very good again, I thought, and Dimitri Vainonga, I thought was probably his best of the season. 90 metres, 19 tackles, and he came on sort of late in the first half, and thought he was really physical, and excited about his progress as much as it's not as spectacular as Halaseema's. I think it's just about as important at this stage for the squad.
I think he's been outshone by Leka, which is absolutely fine. Anyone would be. I think we just got to leave him in the 17, leave him to develop, because his ceiling is so high. I must admit I get confused between Leka and Vayamaga some weeks, so I get.
Got to look for the number.
Which one did that? Because a similar style, similar look. Yeah,
it's like,
I think it's a little. You go.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, it's when you go from Cup to NRL, it's faster. Players exploit little weaknesses, right? So that try was at Fainu, who split Bunty and Vaimaga to get the try. Yeah. So like at Cup, you don't have like, you can have that spacing and you'll probably be able to cover it, but you can't at NRL. So the question is he going to learn from that? Like, does he have the mobility and the awareness to learn from that? I think he does, right? And I think the truth is Webby's formed the view that Bunty doesn't. Right? Because Bunty's played a lot of first-grade games and he's still doing that, and he doesn't have the lateral mobility, So at the moment, I think he's borderline first-grade, Vaimaga, when I look at his defence and work rate. But I'm pretty confident he's going to get there. But it's like, again, it's early days for him. He's probably a year away from really getting going.
Do you re-sign Bunty? He's off contract at the end of this year. I think he's a great backup, not in the 17, but like he looks fit. Do you re-sign him depending on price?
Yeah, I'd re-sign him as my prop. I'm going to pick when my first string props are injured. So if he'll take that level of contract, but I ain't giving him a top 17 contract. Just the truth of it. And you got blokes coming through. Like, I haven't really. I was pretty low on, like, say, Tanner Stella Smith, who's been playing Cup. last year. I just always felt he's just a bit too slow to really crack first grade.
Mm.
But people have been saying he's really going well in Cup this year. So I don't even know how that what's coming up behind him. So maybe he wouldn't even be my first drop, depending on what's happening.
Well, he got a double on the weekend, a breakaway try. That was good to see a front rower in clear air.
Yeah.
He's looking bigger than what he looked when he had more hair. I think
Love the bald look, by the way. It's very exciting to see. He's going to be my new favourite player once he makes first grade.
Well, I don't know if he's up to scratch yet. I think from what I know, he's improved, and certainly I wouldn't rule him out as being a regular first grader in the future. But he's got some stiff competition to overcome, and it wouldn't surprise me if sort of he's made 1 to 2 appearances over the next 18 months, then it ends up signing a Super League contract or something like that. I hope I'm wrong, because Will, I'm sure you want a genuine Cantabrian to come through the system.
Yeah. Honestly, it will be a massive milestone for that reason. We've had a couple of like quasi Canterbury juniors come through. Lewis Brown obviously had to go to Australia for several years and then come back. Debut at 23. Jazz Tavanga, Burnham Chevaliers junior, but essentially an Auckland junior. Played all of his teenage footy in Auckland. So yeah, it would be a long time between drinks and a huge moment for Canterbury Rugby League and that relationship with the Warriors. So, but yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I haven't seen enough to suggest that he's a definite NRL player. He's 21. He's doing a really good job in New South Wales Cup, and that was an eye-catching double on the weekend. But much more than that needed to crack this side. But yeah, good depth coming through, and that team's 4-0 now as well. So good to see.
Mm.
So should we segue from that into some of this discussion around recruitment and retention?
Yeah, absolutely. Did you want to touch on Dylan Walker's abrupt departure just quickly, since that's happened since our last pod?
Yeah. Look, I mean, if you said to me in December, by April you're going to have lost Walks and Tohu, I would have said, okay, we're going to be in complete disarray in the middle of the field, right? And we'll be struggling. But, Tohu retired, as we know, and now Walks is gone. Now, I don't know all the personal circumstances, and there was obviously personal circumstances there, and there's been plenty of rumours, and we won't get into that. But the striking thing is, back to my point earlier about Aaron Clark just killing it, right? Like, if Aaron Clark isn't carving up the way he is, there's no way we can move on in a post-Tohu and Walker world and run the game model we've been running. Like, he has held up that end. So at this point now, I don't actually think and the other thing is, we're just playing a bit straighter. So I remember probably midway through last year, Will, coming on the pod here, I was saying one of the problems we got is we've got too many ball players and enough ball runners, right? And when you got a 13 like Walker, he's a ball player, so it's crowding out your halves a bit. And I think we saw that Metcalf and Walker hadn't got in sync. But that said, I thought Walker would be great for Metcalf because he'd effectively allowed Metcalf to play like another 5'8" on the right side because he'd sort of get there. But anyway, I think the weekend showed that as long as Aaron Clark's there and playing well, we can play a slightly straighter model and we won't miss Walks too much. I worry a lot about what happens if Aaron Clark gets injured because there's no one else who can do that, I don't think. So, yeah.
So we saw Aaron Clark, 10 passes. I didn't sort of notice too much of his ball playing, just watching it live. But, 10 passes for Aaron Clark, 3 for Fisher Harris, 3 for Vaimaunga. So, compared to the 20 to 30 passes you got from Walker a game. And then on top of that, however many passes you'd have from Tohu Harris when both of them were playing in tandem. It's a lot less ball playing in the middle when you've got two halves that aren't, exactly dominant on the ball halves. So, interesting to see how that develops. But a very good first step when he, named on Tuesday, gone by Wednesday, and we still can, get it together and pull off a win. So,
Yeah, we're just playing straighter this year. You know, that's the truth of it. Simpler and straighter. And yeah, I don't know. We'll see. And the other big one is obviously it's been reported in the press that Chansey is leaving at the end of the year because he was made an offer that he didn't accept, and there's talk he's going to Super League. So it's not confirmed, but that's the talk in the press. What do you think about that, Keithy?
I hope it's not true. I've really come around to Chance. I think he's the closest player in terms of style and grit would be Clint Gutherson in his Parramatta days. And he's just like the end of the game was just like he's all heart. Chance is a Warriors product. Is there anyone that's really demanding that position? Roger's not going to play fullback. All right, Roger's he can play fullback. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think that he's our long-term fullback or anything like that. Chance and Roger are very, very similar in age. Geronimo is too green to come through from New South Wales Cup. Tulpiki, as I said, I have a soft spot, so maybe he's the option. I'd love to see Chance around for another 2 years, ideally, but I think he's somewhat replaceable. I don't think it's desirable to have to replace him, though.
Mm-hmm. Will, do you reckon there's any indication from that we've got a signing in the works?
Yeah, I mean, you'd kind of hope so if that's the case, if they're going to lowball Chance, and you'd hope they've got a plan in place. If not, if it's to bring, if they see Tane as a future as early as next year, then there's so much cap space opening up.
Yeah,
You've
where's
got
the
to
money
go
going?
after
Where's the
some-
money going? Yeah,
Yeah, you got to be going after some big fish, and there's been
Joey Manu.
and
well,
yeah.
This is the thing, right? So there's been a lot of bullshit talk around Kellen Ponga coming to the Warriors, and I'm not getting into that, but there's been a lot of talk that with the Brown contract, right? Are they really going to pay 1.3 or whatever for Brown and 1.4 for Ponga and completely fuck their salary cap for a decade? Or have they signed Brown because he's moving and because Ponga's moving? And people have said, well, if Ponga's moving, he'll go to the Roosters. Now, the Roosters are keeping
or to the All Blacks.
Or to the All Blacks. And the Roosters are keeping cap space open for Joey Manu, I've always assumed, right? Because the whole thing there was he couldn't get fullback money and Teddy was going to retire and Joey was coming back. Yep. But somewhere, Ponga's going, I think. So is Ponga going to the Roosters, in which case Manu comes to somewhere else? I reckon if Manu, there's only two clubs Manu will go to. He'd go to the Waz or he'd go to Roosters. So yeah, like I do. It does feel to me like the club has got a spine signing in the works, but I've got no inside mail. It's just my thoughts.
Just on the Roosters, listen to Paul Kent's new podcast, and he was saying that I think they finished minor premiers in 2015, and then Trent Robertson said to Nick Politis, our salary cap is screwed up, really screwed up. I can probably get us top 8 respectable for the next 3 years, but it's going to take that long to fix. Or if we just tear it up and be prepared to finish very low next year, then we can probably get it fixed within 1 year. And Nick Politis said, fix it within 1 year. And then the year after that fix-it year, they finished second. I get the feeling the Roosters are having deja vu right now. They realise the salary cap was pretty screwed up, and this is that 1 year, and don't expect to see them, don't be surprised if they finish maybe even bottom 6 and then top 4 next year, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but who they buying to finish top 4? Because they ain't doing it with what they got.
Daly Cherry Evans is firming as a definite option.
I mean,
maybe that's who we're signing.
To be honest, that's battling club. That's a battling club play, if I'm honest. Like, yeah. I reckon the Roosters have lost.
But it's similar to the Cooper Cronk purchase, which won them 2 premierships. Maybe
anyway,
they see him as that same sort of influence. Maybe not.
I like Talpiki can be a future fullback, no doubt about it. There's no other fullback in the club. Like, like you got Rog, but he's on the way out. He's only got a year left, right? So none of the kids come through. There's none that are clearly earmarked as fullbacks. So if we're letting Chance go, we're going to be, you can muddle through next year with Rog filling in, maybe Dow at a pinch. But it feels like there's a fullback signing that's going to come. Because I don't think you're pinging your whole hopes on the next 3 years on Dane Dalpicki now. Yeah, so I don't know. I reckon there's something in the works, is my sense.
You could say it was Tamare, but he's going as well, according to these rumours from Michael Carianis. He's set to sign with Lee in the Super League.
He's playing Cup. He ain't staying. He ain't staying to play Cup. You know,
and he's just as old as Chance as well. I mean, and it seems he's so beautiful. You think he's younger, but he's 29 as well. So, and I don't think he has the chops to go a full season at fullback doing those hard yards. He's a classy player, but just not quite the right fit for us at the moment.
To be fair, he should go to Super League. The way he plays, he would be like a market Super League signing. Yeah,
he won Man of Steel. And Chance would probably dominate over there. It would be sad to see him go, and just sort of another one along with Walker, leaving after 46 games. Chance would be leaving with 60 to 70 games for the club. It's again that sort of short-term tenures, but it's building for something. I guess a bit more important. Those guys came at a late stage in their career, and see how it unfolds. It's gathering a lot of momentum. But we'd love to have a juicy signing to look forward to for 2026.
Yeah, I think as long as we, over the next few years, gradually reduce the average age of our starting 17 players, while still maintaining the experience of James Fisher-Harris, Mitchie Barnett, etc., Wade Egan, and bring those juniors through. We want to get them in the prime of their careers. We don't want to. I'll give Justin Olam as an example. Melbourne are masters of juicing the prime years out of a player on unders, and then they'll let a club like the West Tigers sign them for 3 years on overs, and they're pretty much mud with that other club. Yeah. We want to be the club that's bringing our players through and juicing them for the prime of their careers on unders, and then finally they go to the open market towards the end of their career, get what they can get on the open market, but they're past the peak. We can't be the other way around, which we have been in the past.
I think that's spot on, but I'd also say, this talk of we're moving to a development club, and look, we've got other 7, we've got Bo Mulga, we've got Ali Leotawa, and so we're just going to have 3 of those come through every year. That's not going to happen, right? Like when I look through the depth chart, there's not 3 of them coming every year. I'll tell you now, right? We're lucky if there's 3 of them coming in the next 3 years, right? So we're not gonna be able to fill all the different spots we need to fill, especially in the halves coming through the middle. We're going to have to sign people. It's simple as that. Like, yes, we're going to move to a development club overall, but we are 5 years away from genuinely getting there, if ever is the truth of it. So,
I think we can get there. I think we definitely can get there.
Yeah, but like, if you look at it, like a championship winning flag or ball team, right, and you track that through, like you might get 2 first graders out of it, right? So let's say you're generating 2 first graders a year out of your club. Yep. Which would be pretty good performance. Well, over a 10-year period, you're going to generate 20. Doesn't fill your top 30. Right, you got to find another 10.
That Harold Matts team, they won last year, and they're first again so far this year. We're actually first in New South Wales Cup, first in Harold Matts. The other 2 we just won't talk about.
I don't believe there's a current half in the club who's a lock to play first grade below cup level. I don't believe there's one. There's a couple who, all going well, get hit on the ass by a rainbow might, right? But
Jet Cleary could turn out to be. It's not going to be Nathan, but he could be a first grader.
Could be, right? But it's not a lock at all. So, the reality is if you get an opportunity to sign a first grade half or a first grade fullback when you don't already have one, you got to take it. It's simple as that. I just feel like if the club aren't clearing the decks for a signing with everyone we've lost and all the rest of it, they're missing a trick. And the signing doesn't need to be in the edge back row because that's covered for a decade. And the middle's pretty much covered for 3 years, I reckon. So really we're talking OBs and we're talking halves and we're talking fullback, I think, is where it's at.
The other
last year I asked you guys.
Sorry, Keith, you go, mate.
So last year I asked you guys who's the one player that will cause the most damage if they got injured right now, and we saw that it was between AFB and SJ. They're both gone. Who's the player that you nominate now?
Wade Egan.
Yeah, definitely Egan. I think who's our
first time we're all on the same page.
Healy could potentially be a good gap filler, but you've got to carry Lussick in your 17 all of a sudden again. And Egan is just so important to this team at the moment. So, yeah, definitely him. And I think there's just no one else in this team, as sad as that is, there's not any marquee players that are so good. Yeah, it's catastrophic if they, drop out or get injured, and there's decent depth across the board. That's not that far behind of what we've got playing in first grade, I think. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm. In saying that, we've got the current Australian front rower in Mitchie Barnett. We've got a New Zealand captain and front rower in James Fisher-Harris. We've got who, in my mind, is equal front runner for the New South Wales number 9 spot. So there are genuine regular stars in there as well. It's just it's a nicely balanced squad in my mind.
No, don't get me wrong. If Fish goes down though, you've got Barney and so on and Bunty. It's going to hurt if Barney goes down. You got Fish. It's going to hurt. But I just and it's not even that. Say you bring Bunty up or Ali up or you give Vaymarga more minutes. That's not going to do what Fish or Barney do. But I just think the way we're playing at the moment, Egan is instrumental to the way we're playing. Now, by the end of the year, if the halves have stepped up and are starting to run ship a bit more, that could flip. But right now, that's where it is. If you take Egan out and put Lussick in, probably even Healy in, we're none and four at this point, I would say.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah. The other part of that Carianis rumour was that the club's looking at Jai Linane. Don't know much about him other than he did his ACL at the start of this year, and he's from Newcastle and is former Dalian Rookie of the Year, Steve Linane's nephew. Apparently the Warriors are looking at him as well. I'm not sure whether we need to sort of recruit more unknown promising halves of that sort of age. We've got Cleary over here, Luke Hanson's still in the mix and still too good. He's been bumped back to Fleeg. We've got that many mid-range halves. Stepped up and went well in Cup. And someone must have pulled out over the weekend. But
I disagree.
Yeah.
I don't see halves coming through our production line yet. If
he was an obvious gun, I just don't know enough about him. But to grab a young guy from Newcastle who's just done his ACL, that's doesn't exactly. It's not exactly like finding the next superstar.
No, it's not. But all these guys are 1 in 5, 1 in 10 shots. You know what I mean? So if you got 5 of them in your club and they're 1 in 5 shots of coming good, odds are one of them's going to come good. You know what I mean? Whereas. Look, handsome man, Jack Cleary. These guys are 1 in 5 shots, 1 in 4 shots, maybe 1 in 3 shots, depending on your opinion on them. But none of them are certainty. So if you can get, them in your club, you're just maximising your odds. I think that's what that signing was about. The one I found really interesting was there was talk we're going after a Pommy bloke. He's an edge back rower.
Morgan Gannon.
Yeah, but like I was like, what are we doing that for? But I looked him up, and he came through as a halfback. Right? So okay, so we've got a big, rangy, wide running type of dude with the hands of a halfback. You know, that's starting to sound a lot like a Tohu Harris to me, right? You know, yeah. So suddenly I'm
He's
looking at that going,
he's 6'3", I think, and has played a handful of Super League games at 5'8" too. So
yeah. So like
there you
that's
go.
well, I reckon Tohu was about 6'3", and he played come through as one of these edge back rowers who could play a bit of 5'8", right? That was Tohu on the way through. So I'm wondering if Richie Agar, while he's on suspension and can't coach, has gone back over there and started having a yarn to this guy and gone, you know, this guy's got again, it's not a guarantee, but like if there's a 30% chance he's the next Tohu Harris, get his ass over here. You know, let's have a look at him. You know? So yeah, I don't mind that.
The Richie Agar situation is still so strange to me because it's not John. John's not that kind of. John's a Mr. Nice guy. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah.
Will. It's
Not
such a
well,
surprise.
but I was
when I found out it was
surprised
John.
that was him.
Yeah, I should have asked Steve Mascott on the podcast, but maybe I'll ask John. I'll get John on and see. Well, man, what's the deal with that?
Mate,
Yeah,
just
bizarre
leave it alone.
situation.
Leave it alone, Keithy. Leave it alone.
We all want to know.
We don't need to stir that
Bizarre.
up.
Bizarrely handled, bizarre situation. Copped what I think is probably a reasonable punishment, and they can move on. But
all right, boys, is that about a wrap? I got to jump.
Yeah, I think that's about it. For Keithy, if you got 5 minutes, I might keep you on to go through my compassionate grounds 13 of all time for the Warriors. Take it another couple.
Absolutely, that sounds very fascinating. I'm curious to see what it is. Oh, the players that have left us on compassion. I love that. Let's stick around. Yeah.
And Keithy, let me know when you want to do the NRL Europe special. I'm happy to jump on, have a yarn on everything rugby league and talk about that.
Definitely. I'm trying to line up people that are on the ground, and a couple of them said it's just too delicate right now. I can't come on. I'll risk my relationships in France.
I'm not delicate.
You know
I'm not delicate, mate. So let me know. See you, boys.
See ya.
See you, mate. Thanks, Fonzie. Yeah, just sort of speaking of Chan's rumoured to be in the sights of Catalans as a replacement for the retiring Sam Tompkins. A sense of irony there, I guess, is one of the Warriors' sort of high-priced flops, I guess most people would say, although I think he's a bit harshly treated historically. But straight into it, he is the fullback in my compassionate grounds 13 in Warriors history.
So it can go either way. It can go either way.
Well, he was released from England back to England a year early. So he I don't know if he was homesick. He had an injury-prone 2015 season, and I don't think anyone. And then we signed Roger, obviously. So happy to let him go. On the wings, we've got Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, compassionate release for his COVID leadership and to chase his All Blacks dream. Obviously, now he's back at the club, but that was a year early. The other one, bit of a deep pull, but Denon Kemp. His arrival didn't quite go to, but he's coming off a great 2008 season with the Broncos, came to the Warriors, played 9 games and just didn't quite fit in on the opposite wing to Manu there.
Yeah, and he's pretty honest about his time at the Warriors as well. He was seeing a girl at the time, and that didn't work out. That dragged him down. It was even worse, with all due respect, than Denon Kemp was Joel Moon, which I think is the same year. It's just not a good team.
Yeah, I mean, 2009 obviously was a tough year for the club, and I talked to Denon Kemp just as he was sort of getting kind of well known for what was in the locker room, and he sort of said, no hard feelings, but all their play was directed towards Manu's wing, and he just couldn't get a look in. So he's sort of catching a cold out on the other wing and didn't settle in Auckland. He said he hated the weather, and he said that when he flew back to Brisbane, sunny in Queensland, middle of winter, and he said just this big knot in his stomach untied as soon as he sort of, caught a glimpse of Queensland. So I might see if I can pull the audio from that. I just did a long form article on it, which is on this Warriors Life site way back in 2015. But I might see if I can track down the audio and maybe release it one day, because it's a fascinating chat, and he's great guy, Denham. In the centres, I don't know if this was so much a compassionate release, but it was a mid-season release. Clinton Torpey left midway through 2006. That was a tough one. The other centre, Marcelo Montoya, a more recent one. So he was, allowed to go back for essentially compassionate grounds over the off-season, doing quite well on the Bulldogs flank as well. In the halves, we've got Reece Walsh. Yeah, some quality. Reece Walsh. That was a out-and-out compassionate grounds one, be close to his daughter, rather than come back to New Zealand once we were allowed to come back. Greg Alexander, the first compassionate grounds Warriors release, as far as I'm aware, he was signed for 3 years. Penrith came knocking to bring him home in '97, and the Warriors didn't stand in his way, I guess, because we had the New Zealand halves in our ranks, Stacey and Gene Namu, so let him go. The front row, Adam Fanua-Blake, no more explanation needed there, but let him go a year early. Ali Lauatiti is my other prop. I'm not sure if it was so much compassionate or the just totally fallen out, but he went to England midway through that disastrous 04 season, along with a few others. Mark Tukey and Farfili, I think, did too. Couldn't really find a compassionate release hooker, but I've gone with Sideru, who departed midway through 1999. And
99.
This back row is all compassionate. Jason Bakuya won pretty modest season at the Warriors, and they let him go back to Cronulla on compassionate grounds, won a premiership. Ewan Aitken, similar to Walsh, signed for us, never lived in New Zealand, won a Player of the Year in 2022, and then they let him go to the Dolphins instead of coming back to live in Auckland. And 13, none other than Dylan Walker, the latest. So, I mean, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if you really dug deep into all the other clubs. The Warriors fans really feel like we're hard done by this, or too soft or whatever, or players are taking advantage of our good nature, or just the fact that we are an outpost. But fair old side there. It would be really interesting to see if we actually do release more players than the average, or better players than other teams seem to.
And would need a net figure as well. I think there's a returning 13 on compassionate grounds that'll make a good team as well if we come up with numbers, 100%. And then we'll go with the net figure on it. Obviously, we got Charnsey on compassionate grounds. James Fisher-Harris wanted to connect with his culture and family a lot more. Isaac Luke said, I need to go back to New Zealand, and there's probably a team in there where it's come the other way. Roger's an interesting one because he was convinced to come to the Warriors to start a bit of a revolution for the rugby league in New Zealand that, we now know didn't quite transpire, but he was drawn home as that was the main pitch. So I'd love to.
And he couldn't have done much more than he did either. He was unbelievable for us.
So sometimes we're just a better team when there's no standout star that just takes the ball and does it. Like Stacey, we mentioned 2009. I think that was the year that Stacey returned from Catalans, and we became the first and maybe only team to win from 8th in the McIntyre system the year before by beating Melbourne in Melbourne. I think that was the year. So we were playing finals footy. And then the next year we were second last or something like that. And that's the year that Stacey came back. And that's not Stacey's fault. That's just because we have a bad habit of having a bit of an under sixes mentality where you just get the good guy the ball and see if it works. But when there's when you replace Stacey with the Grant Ravelli and a Michael Witt partnership kind of thing, all of a sudden there's not that guy. And it seems that everyone realizes they need to lift as a team. So sometimes, I'm hoping from an optimistic standpoint that SJ's gone this year. Maybe everyone needs to lift 10%, and we go way better than we did last year.
Yeah, well, that's that team 2007-08 is who I compare this one. The potential of this team to. We were running around with Fiend and Witt and Ravelli in the halves, and we didn't have a standout hooker. It was Fiend and Henderson. McKinnon was great in 07, but he wasn't a superstar before he turned up for us, and we obviously had Wiki and Price leading a pretty strong pack. We've got that with Fisher Harris and Barnett. Mannering was still young then. Manu was still very up and down back then. Brent Tate sort of came in and gave us some class in the backs. And similar to 2010, that sort of 2009 season, the bottom fell out there, and obviously Sonny Fire's death probably had an impact there. 2010, it was Seymour and a totally unknown James Maloney steering us to fifth. So, again, without a real marquee player. So, and Price had succumbed to injury. So, there is a lot of potential here for us to do something this year. I'm starting to feel.
I agree. And I think we're coming up to the two games that will tell us where we're really at as a litmus test. So Melbourne and Melbourne.
Yeah, I can't wait for this. It's so exciting. No matter how we're going, in Melbourne, there's always some sort of and sometimes we get pumped by 70 points. But then, 2019, we almost rolled them on Anzac Day. We should have, if it wasn't for Cameron Smith playing the referee. And now we're going in with a bit of form. Melbourne, they lost to St George Illawarra last weekend. They're not infallible. Couple of injuries there. Hughes, I'm assuming, won't be back by then.
I think he will. I suspect he will.
Really? Okay.
Well, it's such a Warriors thing that we seem to be on the receiving end of these star players coming back just in time for the Warriors game, or Melbourne Storm breach the salary cap, get stripped of all the competition, play the Warriors that week. It just seems to fall our way every single time. And Hughes, I suspect, is going to go. I think Nelson returned against us last year after being out for a fair few weeks, if not months beforehand. I've just ChatGPT'd. The New Zealand Warriors' most recent victory over the Melbourne Storm in Melbourne was July 18, 2015, with a 28-14. Oh, no, that was at Mount Smart.
The year before was the last time we won in Melbourne on Anzac Day, 16-10, I think. David,
and we play there every year,
possibly on debut. Yeah. I mean, we've gone really close the last couple of years. Heartbreaking. We led 18-6 in 2023, and then they got us 30-22. Really unlucky. Dylan Walker sim binning, but quality performance last year. Should have won 2 tries in the last 3 minutes, and they beat us 30-26 with probably the greatest, one of the greatest buzzer-beating tries of all time for Coates. So
I don't want to. I'm so sick of that. Was the Vegas ad again? Oh, not again. Oh, that was the Vegas ad this year, and God, to be in the receiving that and have to see that so many times is such a painful thing. We need to break the hoodoo in Melbourne. God, I hope we do it.
Oh, I'd love to. But, I'm so pumped up for this one. Yeah, main afternoon game on Sunday. Yeah, it's going to be great. It's probably a good place to leave. Keithy, can't wait to have you back again, mate. Thanks for jumping in. It's been a Bunty/Ed Cossey-like return for you. And we know we can always call upon you, mate, and you come in, put the jersey on, do the job.
Anytime.
We'll certainly see more of you this season, mate. Thanks to you, King's Container Crew, TAB, Frank Podcasts, Brad. He's getting the week off. He needs this bye week as much as anyone. He's been a big first month for him of the season, so he'll be back for Teamless Tuesday live next week. See what sort of team we roll out against the Storm. Until then, Keith and everyone out there, look after yourselves and each other.
Pleasure.
This is a Frank podcast.